This video is going to be a film study look at Lamar Jackson's performance, particularly focusing on the second half in the 26-24 loss to the Steelers. As an aside, I do have a long-term film study on Lamar for 2025 planned for the offseason. It's probably a little too soon for that, but basically, what worked, what did not, a realistic appraisal of his play in the context or in light of the fact that the offensive line was so subpar, number one. Number two, we really were dealing with a defense that just doesn't even fit the standard of being average at the NFL level. And what I mean when I say that is three times during the course of the second half, Lamar was able to give, actually two times, he was able to give us the lead, but the third time he should have, of course, Tyler Loop's game-ending missed field goal. Let's focus on the first touchdown from Lamar to Tez Walker. He's 5 of 10 in the first half and parts of the third quarter. I'm not ignoring that, to be honest with you. I'm just focusing on, some of the things the Steelers did to try to hold us down, or in their opinion or from their perspective, put us in disadvantageous positions. They weren't necessarily able to do that on this first possession. Henry pops the 47-yarder. He, of course, did finish with over 120 yards on the night. This is a really brainless defensive structure, to be honest with you, by the Steelers early on. So down to the boundary, you've got Porter on Andrews. Walker is just basically running, I would call this a climb concept. Different people refer to it with different names. Perhaps, some would refer to it maybe as a post. I don't think Ramsey is undercutting this. I just think he's beat. But he's beat because of the way that Pittsburgh aligned here. They're bringing heavy pressure to try to get to Lamar, right? And Walker and Flowers are both open. I think this may be Wester, but I'm not sure. He could, be considered open as well. This is just dangerous to the point of eliciting, or I should say asking to be beat with a long touchdown pass. I get it that people are going to say, well, Ramsey's undercutting that. What the hell kind of route are you thinking that we're going to run if you're undercutting that? Look, the reality is he gets beat here. To this point, Henry had popped a 47-yarder with a BS penalty on Flowers at that time. Lamar hits a wide open Walker here. Just a great start. Things clearly slowed down, however, for the rest of the first half. Same play from the end zone angle. Like I said, it's a 4th and 3. First possession for the Ravens. You do have this dynamic whereby there's so many potential blitzers lined up, right? You got obviously a safety, the 2 inside linebackers. It's a passing situation, 4th and 3. So they've taken Malik Harrison off the field and they've replaced him with Peyton Wilson. Potential blitzer off screen to our right, just barely, is Joey Porter, the corner, who's lined up over Mark Andrews. One of the things that I contend, at least from what I've seen on film in this game, is the blitz structure really wasn't nearly as advanced or complicated as maybe we all thought in live time. So as I record this, it's early Tuesday morning. Number one, you got a lot of things going on here. These two defenders, Benton and Wilson, actually kind of trip over each other. That helps us out a little bit. We also end up with Ali. Some would say he's stalemating Queen here, but really Queen is in man. So Queen recognizes Ali stepping to him. Queen's got to kind of come to balance a little bit so that the running back doesn't just run by him. So this is one of the blitz structures that they use, sure, right? Bringing both OLBs, both defensive tackles, and then one or perhaps two of the inside linebackers in the person of Wilson and Queen. Lamar knows what he's got here off screen to our bottom left. Like I said, you've got Flowers running a little bit of a seam vertical, and then easy win for Walker against Ramsey. Sure, if you want to say he's undercutting it, fine. There's just no safety help. They put him in they put Ramsey, they being the Steelers, they put him in a bad position, in my opinion, from a defensive standpoint. Sometimes you got to go cover zero. You got, play with no safety, because Ramsey is actually the safety in their defensive structure right now. I thought we could have taken advantage of him and some of those opportunities in the first half. Of course, like I said, this is the first possession. We go up 7-0. But the next 4 drives for Baltimore, 4 possessions, 21 plays, only 60 yards. Still, we were able to be up 10-3 at the half. We definitely had difficulty throwing the ball consistently in the first half, so credit the Steelers for that, for the decisions they made, right? The defensive structure, the choices from a coverage standpoint. However, Henry was able to get things going in the run game. I think 11 carries, maybe 12 for 88 or 89 yards, somewhere in that range we've moved forward here to the third quarter. It's a 10-10 tie at this point, and the Steelers offense early in the third quarter, they kind of made it look easy, right? They go 67 or maybe 70 yards in 12 plays. You get the third and 7, maybe 3rd and 8 conversion to Freiermuth, and then 2 tush pushes down near the goal line. They're able to tie it at 10. Like I said, this is a 3rd and 10. This, of course, is going to be the interception. So Lamar is targeting Hopkins up here to the top side. Late here, if Lamar had maybe waited a little bit longer, I think it's Zay Flowers coming open underneath. It's a man structure, so they're running one of the inside linebackers, Peyton Wilson, across with Likely. Likely's pretty much kind of running a wheel here into the boundary, kind of a little bit of a wheel follow between those two guys. And like I said, Zay is breaking open a little bit late. You do have this safety to the boundary. I think it's Duggar, who appears to be reading Lamar's eyes. So if Lamar was to come back to Flowers, left to right from Lamar's perspective, meaning look here first and then come back at this angle looking for Zay on that kind of route right there, then Duggar would clearly try to, redirect or reorient himself. He's just looking at Lamar's eyes and reacting to it. The reality is you should expect Cam Hayward to win his matchup with Voorhees the majority of the time. We're not very physical there with him. I mean, we're outclassed, right? Hayward is a better football player. I think he had a team high 7 tackles. It ends up being, very random, I guess. Ronnie tips the ball a little bit like up in the air, makes it, I guess you could say, easier for Watt to get the turnover. There's just so much random shit that happens in Ravens-Steelers game. It does seem like lately it oftentimes happens to the benefit of the Steelers, but give them credit. They're very active, hostile in that environment in Pittsburgh. They were ready to go. We're up 10-3 at the half, and we think that the defense is playing well. Hamilton going out plays a role, plays a factor, don't get me wrong. They tie it at 10 because our defense was porous on 3rd down, and then get the turnover they need. Fortunately, we're able to stand up and hold it to 13-10. I'll give you the end zone angle of the same play. Earlier in the game, felt like Hayward was able to get inside hand position often here. That's not exactly the dynamic that occurs here, to be honest with you, as he's matched up with Voorhees. I will say this, the Steelers it wasn't as unpredictable, in my opinion, who was going to drop out. So when you had this nickel look, or dime, whatever you want to call it, it's nickel here because you got 2 inside linebackers, talking about Queen and Wilson. Generally, you were not getting these guys dropping out from their nickel platform. Why? Because it wasn't a 5-man presentation. In my opinion, the Steelers, correctly predicted that they'd be able to give us, our offensive line, trouble in protection with a 5-man presentation, but only a 4-man rush. That's not necessarily the case here. As an aside, Voorhees has got a little bit of a face mask here just for a moment on Hayward. And the physical strength, the ability to play through that for Hayward, he's still able to get his hands up and work vertically. We were not able to threaten him in the run game or the pass game with this matchup at all. Watt was trying to win to the outside multiple times against Rosengarten. I felt like Rosengarten was able to push him past the pocket some, but Watt just does a great job of reducing his surface contact area. Talking about, his right shoulder, his tricep, his forearm, etc. He's reducing the surface area by getting low, lowering his pad level, and he's able to orient towards the quarterback. I don't care if it's a win or a loss. I'm just telling you that Watt being able to threaten to the top side against Rosengarten had an effect on our pass pro choices, not just in what the coaches called, Todd Monken called, but also what our guys did on the field. That was a big moment. Obviously, it seems like they're often able to get a turnover against us that allows them to kind of play downhill somewhat, if you will, either get a lead or, come back from an early deficit. In this case, we were up 10-3, and then they're able to turn it into a 13-10 lead by the next time we get the football. Talking about our 7th possession here in the third quarter. I love this concept from 21 personnel. If you guys listen to my channel much, I'm all about formations. I talk about formations a lot. I call this twins eye because you got twins or 2 receivers down here, an eye backfield between Henry and Ricard. They're both on the midline, and then 1 tight end set to the backside by himself. The concept is basically a flood off of play action, if you ask me. Henry and Ricard going basically in split flow, so they're going in opposite directions. Henry ends up being what I would call the low in a high-low on the outside linebacker or force defender. In this case, out of 21 personnel, we're getting what we want. And what I mean by that is they're playing man. They've chosen to play man. Ramsey on Hopkins, 22 on Flowers. I think 22 is Samuel at this point. I like Asante Samuel. I'm glad he latched on to another team. I feel like that's a matchup that's in our favor, especially when we're getting man and we've got the whole side of the field to work with. In 1st and 10 or 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4 situations, I much prefer for this team, 2025 Ravens, to be under center and going play action, as opposed to in the shotgun and, quote, spreading people out. And here's what I mean by that. Defenses, teams can be a little bit less predictable, maybe a little more versatile if we're in the shotgun and we're throwing the football a ton. If we get into this formation, this type of formation, twins eye, whatever people want to call it, you have your names, it's fine. It kind of forces their hand a little bit by staying in their base defense, number one, and then post-snap, we get what we want from a coverage standpoint. We get man, Hopkins running the deeper out, Henry off the play action going out into the flats. We can't do this on 2nd and 9, though. That's the problem. So there is some inherent danger with going play action on 1st and 10. I just think this is a really great usage of our personnel. Flowers and Hopkins to one side. So you're creating a little bit of a spread set to one side of the formation and a tight end nobody in the case of Kolar up to the top, which I believe was into the boundary. Let's start to talk about who the Steelers are dropping out and how I believe in retrospect or hindsight at this point for me anyway, it's a little bit easier to understand. So the ball is on the right hash. Of course, the hashes in the NFL are not very far apart, 18 feet, 6 inches, I believe, from hash to hash. In any case, it's a 3rd and 4 on that same 7th possession with the Steelers up 13-10. I think we've moved into the 4th quarter here. I believe I may have had that mislabeled. There's this possession where we go ahead on the first touchdown to Flowers that kind of bridges between the 3rd and the 4th quarter. So they are in a 5-man presentation pre-snap, but they're not all 5 rushing all the time. It's 3rd and 4, right? So they got 2 inside linebackers on the field, one of which is Malik Harrison. And they're going to play what I will call an irregular Tampa 2. So what I mean when I say Tampa 2, if we remove who the players are right now, in Tampa 2, you usually have a corner in the flats as a force player, a corner in the flats as a force player. Of course, that's not a corner. That's actually T.J. Watt. It doesn't really matter, though. It's covered by the phrasing or the preface of calling it irregular. He's going to drop out into the flats. This corner is going to take the flats. How does Zay Flowers end up, quote, matched up on Patrick Queen? Well, first of all, Queen is the Mike linebacker who would be basically running deep between the hashes with 2 deep safeties. They're not actually both safeties. One of them happens to be a corner. I'm omitting the fact that Lamar is escaping 2 high-quality NFL defensive linemen, probably because he does shit like this often when he's healthy, right? Earlier in the season, maybe he wouldn't be able to escape this. He shouldn't be in this situation anyway, in my opinion. As I've watched the film, I will tell you, it is far less complicated looking to me in terms of which of these guys is actually going to rush and which guy's going to drop. I'm talking about a 5-man presentation with 2 outside linebackers, 3 interior defensive linemen, one of which, Benton in this case, is a nose tackle. Again, I get the benefit of hindsight. I feel like NFL-level coaches and offensive line should be able to figure this out a little bit better, live speed. So it's a Tampa 2 with Queen running, the deep middle third. That doesn't work mathematically, obviously. First of all, Lamar's got the skill, the physical skill, strength to break through the 2 tackles. It's also his awareness right now to see it like, okay, my offensive line has done this once again. I've got to get out of here. There's no escape path to my left. He doesn't, for whatever reason, go to his right. He steps up, and that's what allows him and gets his pad level low just enough that he's able to escape between those guys. Highsmith is a baller, man. He's been playing fantastic here lately. We've got Flowers isolated on Queen, but it's not man, okay? So Queen, if you want to call this targeting Patrick Queen, go right ahead. That's an impossible cover for a Mike linebacker. Do I think that he could play it a little bit better somewhere in this range right before I've got it paused right now? Absolutely. It's just a great throw by Lamar. Throws it all the way over Queen. The only way that Queen will be able to get to this, in my opinion, to this depth, is if he had continued on this vertical path immediately after the snap. And that's not what Zay's route did. So sometimes things just happen because of the route construction or the configuration. I think it's really a risky coverage, to be honest with you. But they ran this multiple times, what I call a hybrid Tampa 2. Some people call it irregular Tampa 2. I think EA Edgar Allen calls it a ITT, irregular Tampa 2. It's a cool coverage that gave us fits early in the game. At this point, I feel like we should have been able to better adjust to the blitz. Lamar definitely knows what he's got from a coverage standpoint. Well, once he escapes the initial pressure. This same play from the end zone angle, by the way. Here's the 5-man presentation. Boundary side to OLB, going to drop out. Field side to OLB, going to rush. And all of the discussion about who should take who, man, this is just a standard 4-man rush from a 3-4 platform. That's all this is. It's like been around since the 70s. And what I mean is you've got 2 OLBs, Watt and Highsmith, 2 inside linebackers, Harrison and Queen. And so the way that you typically get to a 4-man rush is you drop one of the OLBs. To me, this should have been far easier to discern during the course of the game. I was not able to find an example of the boundary side OLB blitzing and the field side OLB dropping. I recognize that it could have occurred and I just didn't track it or chart it, but it ain't what I've got on film. So Henry is working to Watt. I feel like because it's TJ Watt, right? In my opinion, we could use a better allocation or recognition, I should say, of what the Steelers were actually doing in this game and not have to put our star quarterback, our best player, the guy who determines whether we win or lose the most in this position. This is a microcosm of the 2025 Ravens season, in my opinion. Falele, Linderbaum, Stanley. Who cares? Like, I recognize that if the nose tackle is stunting here, that Falele could certainly take him over. Rosengarten could certainly take him over. Fine, whatever. The individual discussion point to me at this point, since our season is over, it kind of doesn't matter. We've got to be better as teaching these guys how to recognize things during the game. I don't know that our coaches recognized that the boundary side OLB was dropping out, and the field side OLB was oftentimes rushing. Seen multiple comments on Twitter and in the Ravens Discord about Emory Jones competing with Hayward on this play. I agree. I mean, I liked how Emory Jones looked during this game. He's given maximum effort here, number one. I think he's a better player than both Falele and Voorhees in 2026. I'd like to see him get every opportunity to be a starter. I think it's a great throw by Lamar. Getting it over top of Queen. I have no idea if Queen's assigned the target or not, but these are the two, quote, half-field defenders. You can see that one of them is a safety in Duggar, and the other one is a corner in Porter. That's why, I call it a hybrid Tampa 2. This is 52 or maybe 51 minutes of gameplay, I guess, into the game before we've been able to kind of attack this coverage appropriately. But the only reason that it happened or occurred is because Lamar escaped 2 free rushers at the same time. It's maddening to me that we're past week 18, it's over, and we still have people trying to talk about the individual assignments. It's a global issue that's above the player level. It's teaching, preparation going into the game that falls directly on George Warhop, who just doesn't stand up, if you ask me, and John Harbaugh, the guy assigned or tasked with hiring him and supervising him. I think it was a difficult night to watch the offense. The defense was a joke. The defense, really stunk in the second half. Hamilton going out was a big factor there. But I do think that Aaron Rodgers and their passing game would have been able to get things accomplished. Even if Hamilton's on the field, could they have gotten enough positive plays? Could they have converted all the third downs that they did? that were necessary in order to win the game, it's entirely possible that we win that game, 24-20, something in that range. But in any case, the defense, after that touchdown to Flowers, the first one, gave up a quick score. I think it only took a minute 48, but maybe I'm misremembering my possessions. Steelers are up 20-17 here. We got a 2nd and 9. I hate this play from the standpoint of replay assist. And I don't understand replay assist directly or intimately. Maybe the ref is in the stadium. If the ref is in the stadium and monitoring the play there in Pittsburgh as this game happens, I'm fine with it. If it's a New York situation, I think that anyone outside the stadium should be removed from the discussion, interpretation of anything entirely. We have another example of a 5-man line. Highsmith is going to be here. He's going to drop to the boundary. It's quite simple. If there's one receiver, that guy drops underneath one, the outside receiver. If there's two, you match an out by 2. Now, this is not necessarily an out by Flowers because he kind of takes this out and then back up again. And Highsmith, A, isn't going to be responsible for that, but B, he's not going to be able to cover it anyway. This is straight out of the old school 50, what was called a 5-2, or what became known as a 3-4 defensive playbook. It's also very similar to what Brian Flores did a lot of against us, but what he also did a ton of against the Detroit Lions this year. And that's, again, an irregular Tampa 2. Flat player here is Highsmith, the OLB. Flat player to the field is the corner. It's the outside corner. This is a mirror image of what I showed you earlier. In fact, it's Samuel, except this time he's up to the other side. You've got one corner, the boundary side corner, Porter. He's the half-field defender. The field side safety, I think it's Duggar, is the half-field defender up there. Outside linebacker into the flats, outside linebacker to the field, rushing. It's very simple. I'm not saying it was every iteration of it. There were some times where they dropped both OLBs out and they blitzed one of the inside linebackers. That's certainly, a dynamic that happened in this game. I'm not saying that this was all they did, but to me, when the ball was on the hash, that's pretty much what you were getting from this 5-man presentation. The boundary side OLB dropping, the field side OLB rushing. As an aside, man, I do think that Ricard might be short here once this ball is spotted. I just conceptually have a little bit of a problem if this is occurring from outside the stadium. There's the line to gain as best I could do it. The positive 37, I'll let it settle right there. So maybe he doesn't get the ball across there as the knee is down. I think it's pretty close wherever the ball is located. It's a really nice job by Lamar of looking to the downside of our screen. Again, Highsmith settled underneath this kind of out and up, and it's an irregular Tampa 2, a hybrid Tampa 2, whatever you want to call it. EA and I will probably talk about this one on Inside the Coverage on Wednesday. We play this coverage a little bit. I don't think we play it as well as the Steelers, but when the Steelers do play it, 100% of the time, it's the boundary side OLB dropping out to the flats and the field side OLB rushing. So replay assist, ruined that first down for Ricard and creates this 3rd and 1. This is, of course, the touchdown to Flowers, the second one. This is a great setup, man. I love this play call from Todd Monken. Using the gravity of Henry, number 1. Number 2, using the boundary as a weapon. So the design here, it plays off of our pin pull pitch that we've used since Monken showed up in 2023. So pin pull pitch, like down on the edge defender. Usually it's a tackle, but in this case, from this formation, it would be likely looping to go block, and Lamar pitching the ball to the running back. Gus Edwards had some touchdowns on this. I think of one from the same formation against the Lions in 2023 in that demolition at home, I think in Week 7. So in a big moment in the game, 4th quarter, 3rd and 1, we go 21 personnel, unbalanced, and we go sugar huddle, which is immediately run to the line and try to snap the ball super quick. So that gives the defense intel, hey, they're going to snap the ball fast. This is going to be a run play. That's usually how we do it. And then great job, I think, of design. So likely on the same path that he would be on if it was the pitch to Henry, a run play, is running a wheel, or what I perceive to be a wheel. Walker running a vertical, he'll get redirected or disrupted, I should say, by Joey Porter, who I believe actually gets called for a penalty. And then Flowers runs around Malik Harrison. That's a big aspect of this play, if you ask me, is that Harrison is seeing the run-pass conflict. They think it could be run because of the down and distance. So he doesn't actually disrupt Flowers at all. Flowers tries to run around him, and Harrison tries to run around Flowers as well. We're very fortunate in that regard. In addition, Samuel finds no work because he's originally got Ricard here. Ricard blocks, and he doesn't do anything to disrupt either, blitz or fall off and look for something from the other side. I think Ramsey plays this pretty poorly as the field side safety. So what I mean is, this is the route from Flowers that he takes to the house. What I mean with Ramsey is that he is the field side safety from a two-high safety structure. Let's talk about, pre-snap. Boundary side safety, Duggar. Field side safety, Ramsey. There's got to be some rules for you as a field side safety, meaning I have to slow play stuff into the boundary. If we're on the goal line, it's a game-winning touchdown situation, 4th and 1, whatever, fine. But you've got to find some work here. There's got to be some awareness, if you ask me, that's a higher level than just let me stare back here at the quarterback and see what he's doing and just stay in this area. He needs to be more cognizant of the boundary, but again, I know the boundary is tighter. The hashes are tighter at the NFL level than anything I've ever taught. I think this is the hold that they get. You can see all the reaction that happened with Henry on the play fake. Easy setup for Lamar because he had time. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, if Lamar is given time, then he's going to shred people. I remember saying those exact words after the 2024 season. There's the flag thrown, I believe, on Porter for holding, who's, still holding. He's a very physical guy. I liked Porter's film out of Penn State when he came out in the draft. But to me, he does that a lot. Just to be direct, he does that a lot. We took a 24-20 lead here. It's a great call by Monken. Some would say easy throw for Lamar. Fine. I can't help but think that if we had a better offensive line structure, higher talent level on the offensive line, more organization from George Warhop and John Harbaugh, that we could create more easy throws like that. Maybe not this easy, right? But more easy throws for Lamar. This is the one where I believe Collinsworth is like laughing during the play, right? Boundary side is to our left over here. Field, to our right. And as far as Ramsey goes, what I'm saying is you've got to slow play anything into the boundary for a reverse, anything like that. He's not the boot counter reverse player. That's normally going to be your edge defender, Highsmith. But from a formation standpoint, they recognized the formation. Stanley is tackle over. Ricard is the eligible tight end who's basically set up as the left tackle. And that this could be pin pull pitch. Lamar gives the little fake to Henry to try to sell those guys, and Ramsey just drifts so far. Ramsey or the boundary side corner could have a better reaction than this from a Steelers standpoint. Man, just looking back at it, I'm just very happy that Harrison doesn't run through the face mask of Zay Flowers because he got a free release, navigated all that traffic. There's Flowers running across, and Walker being, held, 10, 12 yards downfield, whatever. Jones kind of peels back. I'm talking about Emory Jones. He's working here originally with Flowers because they're trying to make it look like pin pull pitch, right, to the boundary, our left side of the screen, the Ravens right. And then Jones kind of peels back, and that allows, I think it's Black, Yaya Black, I believe is his name, number 94, to get a direct path for Lamar. Easy setup. Boom. Collinsworth started laughing like when the ball was back here because he recognized it because, he's got a great view. We don't get that view from the broadcast at all. So great play call. Credit to Monken for creating this situation. Thank you, replay assist, for, if I'm Zay Flowers, thank you, replay assist, for setting me up with that 3rd and 1 and the ball on the right hash. The way that this will work for Monken's play sheet, right, he would have, some people do it right hash, left hash. So it's, it literally could be 2 sheets, the one on his right as he's sitting down in the press booth or in the coach's booth. He could have right hash on his right, left hash on his left. Different people prefer it different ways. Some people do right hash on the top, left hash on the bottom. It could be separated by personnel group. It could be separated by area of the field. I know a guy who sets up his play sheet in that way. Basically, the idea is area of the field contains all of my calls. So in this case, we're back on the other side of the 50, and he probably has his typical run play, pin, pull, pitch, maybe an option play there, power out of 22 or 21 personnel group, and then this one, right? This play action, normally you got some type of reverse or counter. This probably stands as or could substitute as that type of play. So next time we get the ball, we're only down 26-24 because they missed the extra point. Down in the part of the stadium that's apparently more difficult to kick. Crazy that Boswell missed it. So only down 2. And this is going to be the completion to Andrews. I had a little bit of a complaint about this. This is after Mitchell's big kick return, and then I believe a 7 or maybe 8-yard completion to Walker. So Zay is down here matched up against Porter, going to kind of lose him a little bit. But Queen will slide over with the motion by Andrews, and Queen will kind of get in that window for the potential throw to Flowers. It's completed to Andrews for 4 yards. Again, you've got a 5-man presentation by the Steelers. This is the penalty on Stanley. I'll let it kind of flow through here for a moment. They are actually bringing 5 here. So it's not like either OLB is dropping. Specifically, it would be the boundary side OLB. Quick completion for Lamar gets us 4 yards to Andrews. Malik Harrison in the game. I guess at that point, on a 2nd and 2 with 12 personnel on the field, I guess they're thinking it could be run. So they've put Harrison on the field. It's kind of crazy to me that they would think that as late in the game as we are. I think, we're in the final minute of play here. Quick completion to Andrews gets us 4 yards. I'm fine with the call, okay, on Stanley. It's just so inconsistent, the application of it, the actual enforcement of it. So here's Stanley. Maybe this is the line of helmets that we've got for the right tackle and right guard, and it looks we've got a weird angle here, but this is about the best that I saw in terms of being to the side in a direct manner to be able to look at this alignment. So maybe Stanley's helmet for most of the game is actually up here. I would say, yeah, I want them to call this all game, in every game, on every team. Specifically, obviously, Jawan Taylor, the right tackle for the Chiefs. He's done this type of stuff for years. I think you got a really good angle view of it here. Do I support the call? Sure. But do it every game, in every iteration, and I don't think the refs do at this point. Perhaps you don't have as big of a complaint as I do because Stanley was actually set back off the line. I fully recognize that. And again, I'm someone that I want it to be called, but I want it to be consistent. In any case, we've moved on to the 4th and 7. Look, the play before here is the incomplete to Hopkins. And what I like about this is it's Lamar's immediate response. The very next snap, we've got a guy who's a playmaker. We've got a guy in Lamar who can make plays in the biggest of moments. I would offer to you that in the last 2 playoff-type situations, the Bills last year, and then obviously the Steelers game the week before, we won that game, but this one as well, week 18, essentially, a showdown for the division. Lamar responded when we needed him to the most in the 4th quarter. Certainly we needed him to respond when our defense kept giving up touchdowns and field goals to Aaron Rodgers in the pass game. So one more iteration of the boundary side outside linebacker, dropping out. We motion Flowers across. They appear to be a little bit confused. I mean, they being the Steelers. The ball's on the left hash, so it does end up being Highsmith. He'll kind of drop vertically, and then they play man with Chuck Clark on Mark Andrews. This concept has been in the Ravens playbook for years. I call it a climb concept. To me, really, they are playing cover 3. But to the boundary, they're playing man. And they've, obviously kind of given that away a little bit by motioning Porter across when Flowers goes in motion from the boundary to the field. So he'll work all the way across. When I call it a climb concept, what I mean is the boundary side receiver is normally running, some type of it's basically the same thing that Zay Flowers scored on. Tez Walker scored on earlier, if you ask me. Think about it. 4th and 3, touchdown to Walker on our first possession. 4th and 7. The idea here is, and why I call it a climb concept, where, I got it from some older coach. The boundary side receiver, in this case, is staying in the block, Mark Andrews, or he's running some kind of flat route, a shorter route. that will occupy the boundary side defender. Normally it's an outside corner. In this case, it's strong safety. And then someone from the other side of the field, in this case 3, the number 3 receiver, is climbing onto that vacated space because this route never gets any deeper than 4 or 5 yards. It's a holdover, like I said, from the Greg Roman era. 1, 2, 3 likely is the climb concept. Some people call it a post, skinny post, whatever you want to refer to it as. The idea conceptually is that it's designed to attack a cover 3 where someone is playing man into the boundary, and that's exactly what the Steelers have given us. We got what we want. Credit to Monken for knowing what he was going to get. Lamar with a nice throw over Highsmith. I guess maybe before I got the All-22, I thought this one might have been a little bit too high. It wasn't. He's throwing it over the top of Highsmith. The perfect pace, man, from Lamar to get it over Highsmith, but also such that the middle of the field free safety, Ramsey, who's held for a moment. And what I mean is he's held by this route here and this route here. If he only had Likely's route, if he didn't have that route from Flowers, let's say for whatever reason, Flowers ran over here, then Ramsey would have probably hedged over a little bit more with 3 from that middle of the field alignment, and he probably would have been in a position to make a play on this ball a little bit better. I don't think he mistimed his jump. I think the coverage put him in that situation, and we had the right play call for the second time. Again, it's very similar conceptually to Tez Walker's touchdown. We threw it over. We didn't throw it over the top of that guy. We knew he was going to be occupied by guarding Mark Andrews. We just had to throw it over the hook defender. Really, it's a sloppy cover 3 by those guys because he should be in the flats. And, man, it's just a great catch by Likely. I think we need to commit to the offense more. And what I mean by that is more resources to the offense from an offensive line perspective, obviously. And then if we can, bring this guy back along with Mark Andrews and Charlie Kolar. I have no idea whether that will work out or not. I'll have some comment on the whole coordinator discussion here at the end in terms of Orr versus Monken, because it seems like obviously nothing's going to happen with John Harbaugh, unfortunately. Same play from the end zone angle again. Ball is on the left hash, so this is the OLB. Highsmith that's going to drop out of there from a 4-man front, from a nickel platform or nickel look by the Steelers. We use Andrews to determine the coverage, in my opinion. So what I mean by that is motioning the receiver across. Flowers has created some confusion. They initially go to move Wilson across. I almost said Robert Spillane. That's how old I am. But they initially started to move him across, and then they moved Porter to basically match Zay Flowers. This is a Greg Roman era concept, but he's not the only coach that uses it. Again, I call it a climb route from Likely on the other side. We oftentimes would use a receiver for this, so I think this tells you a little bit of what we think of Isaiah Likely. Basically, the idea is if your guy at 3 to the field is too slow, he can't get to that area before the pass rush can get there. In this case, they are rushing 4. One of them is Queen. I think you've got a win here for Watt against Rosengarten, and I'm pretty sure that you've got a hold here or something that I have seen called a hold numerous times as Queen tries to get through Falele. Highsmith has great depth. Clark does not. I don't know that would impact the throw, but Clark, again, is responsible for Andrews' man. So it's one of the weaknesses that's seldom exploited at the NFL level of playing man to the boundary, but cover 3 everywhere else. You're worried about this route going across. Well, man, it's cover 3. For my money, I want more depth here. I want a little bit more depth here, even if we're assigned man. But at that point, Mike Tomlin and the defensive staff, the defense coordinators, probably in the mode of, hey, we're not going to allow anything to Mark Andrews. This just illustrates, I think, the Ravens have more than enough weapons in 2025. I totally reject some of the stuff I've seen in the last 24 hours about the Ravens not having enough weapons on offense. Do we want more weapons? Sure. I would love if we kept this guy. What we need to do is improve the damn offensive line. And I just can't understand how professional football coaches and analysts can't recognize that. In any case, Ramsey's in the middle of the field, man. It's a long way for him to go. And you can kind of see as the ball arrives here, the conflict that was created with both two guys running, quote, in-breaking routes from the field, from the left-hand side of our screen, but the right-hand side of the Ravens offense. It's an unbelievable catch. Unfortunately, that was ruined by the missed field goal from Tyler Loop. We put that guy in the situations. Should we have ran the ball, thrown for another 5 yards? Sure, fine, if people want to talk about that. Man, 44 yards is makeable. I think we just got to make that field goal. Is it difficult to kick in Pittsburgh? Tough spot to put a rookie in? All of those things can be true. We still got to make it. Lamar gave us the lead, twice. 17-13 and then 24-20. And then here on a 4th and 7 after a miss of Hopkins. Miscommunication, whatever you want to call it, right? Lamar thought Hopkins was going to go up the field on that 3rd and 7, and Hopkins sat down. I know I had a lot to say here and maybe digressed a little bit too much with some of the plays that I showed. I think Lamar was fantastic in the 4th quarter. On the road in a playoff situation, again, very similar to the Bills last year, right? He took us down there, got us a touchdown, gave us an opportunity on the 2-point pass to Andrews that was dropped. I said it last year, and I'll say it again. I think Lamar could have been, a little bit quicker getting the ball out there because it's really a one-play read. I'd like to see us have better options on that throw to Andrews. But this game here, Lamar gave us the lead twice, opportunity to win the game. As I said in my reaction video, it sucks, man, seeing that clip of him watching it happen. I have no concern with Lamar Jackson moving forward. None. About his play, his ability to get things done. The numbers this year, the completion percentage down, sacks up, more injuries. You guys know what I think that's directly attributed to. I think it's attributed to the offensive line. I think he knew it. Lamar Jackson knew that the offensive line wasn't good enough. That's my opinion. I can't prove it. In addition to something that I think but can't prove, I think we need some coaching that is more direct, no BS, a no-nonsense approach. I don't mean for Lamar. I mean for the whole group, for the whole side. Harbaugh's too soft, in my opinion. I don't think Monken is. I think Monken is up front, honest, and maybe that's why those two don't appear to be on the same page. I mean Monken and Harbaugh, not Monken and Lamar. I think Lamar is fine with that type of approach. Great athletes, great players, great performers. They're okay with someone who's got high standards and will call you out to your face or publicly about it. John Harbaugh is not that guy. I don't think Harbaugh's a guy that's pushing this team to a higher level. Let's do it this way. I thought of this morning while I was trying to set up what I wanted to say in closing. We've had 2 great seasons lately, right? 2023 and 2019. Opportunities with home field advantage to get to a Super Bowl, neither of which occurred. Why did we have that level of success? You can apply some of the responsibility, some of the credit to John Harbaugh. Go right ahead. 2023, defense coordinator Mike Macdonald, offensive coordinator Todd Monken in his first year in Baltimore. That's the reason, if you ask me. Along with the players that we had, Lamar's ability to execute. In 2019, Roman's scheme kind of took the league by storm. The NFL was not ready for some of the things they saw, and the athleticism Lamar had and the ability to throw the football, particularly off play action. Wink Martindale did a great job on defense that year. He was very singular in his approach. I'm going to ask you this. What if you remove any 4 of those guys and you replace them as a play caller with John Harbaugh? Obviously, if you replace either of the offensive coordinators, Greg Roman or Todd Monken, you do not get the same level of impact in 2019, certainly, or in 2023. Todd Monken brought his own system here, merged it with what you guys may know that I call Harbaugh plays, and some of them are Greg Roman plays. I don't think on the offensive side you get anywhere near the level of success in either of those seasons, 2019 or 2023. I recognize some people won't like this analogy. Do it on the other side of the ball. 2023, can John Harbaugh give us anything like Mike Macdonald did? Data, stats, everything indicates no. Wink Martindale, I don't think so either. My point is, John Harbaugh is not doing anything to push Lamar, Derrick Henry, this offense to a higher level. Lamar can succeed individually. Henry can look at what Henry did this year with this offensive line, with average talent on the offensive line and average execution and performance. But as a team, collectively, we will not beat teams at the highest level with John Harbaugh as a guy in charge. That's my opinion. And that's what made Monday so disappointing. I was trying to coordinate all of this for Monday evening, just not able to get it done. And look, the Steelers are not one of the highest level football teams, but they did go 10-7, beat us twice. Credit to them. I think we need better support in the form of coordination, preparation, being able to recognize for the offensive line versus a 5-man rush that's just a standard 4-man rush scheme out of a 3-4 platform. I think we should have been able to handle that better. That's just my opinion. This is very similar conceptual game plan for the Steelers as what the Vikings used against the Lions and to a lesser extent against us. That's my opinion. Yours may be, drastically different. Feel free to let me know in the comment section. I know that I digressed and went off in a couple of tangents in this video that's supposed to be about Lamar Jackson's biggest problem, which I think is John Harbaugh.